Everyone is talking about agentic AI systems, but no one is talking about knowledge management, which is the foundations of building your agentic AI systems. What are you building your agentic AI systems on? On your existing proprietary data that you have within your organization. So these skills have been taught in masters, which is a very important and ignored skill nowadays. When I ask people what data that you have, what information you have, people need to understand the hierarchy of DIKW, which means data, information, knowledge and wisdom. Data is Muhammad, challenge, travel, keynote. This is raw words. Did you guys make sense of it? Majority of you will say no. But when I say that Muhammad Arshad Ahmed, he traveled to GITEX where he gave the keynote and then he awarded the challenge participants the prize. Now you guys understand the context and you can make meaning out of this, which becomes an information. End of the day, data is raw facts, figures and observations which are very important for you to build your information. If your data is wrong, then the whole hierarchy IKW will fall out. So our AI systems are again fundamentally data driven. This is built on data science. They learn from the data, make predictions based on the data and improve. Even ChatGPT, if you remember, are predicting the next word, given that these are the 5 previous words that have been there, the next sequence of words. And you have a thumbs up, thumbs down option and it is improving. Guys, you remember the first ChatGPT that was launched almost 3 years back and the current one. They are improving with our data that is there. Understanding how data evolves from these raw facts into information, then knowledge and wisdom is essential for grasping AI true capability and limitation. End of the day, data is the fuel. If you don't cater to the importance of the data, you will not take it anywhere. AI systems requires large volume of quality data to train and operate effectively. And raw data, as I just gave you an example, has no value. It must be processed into information, knowledge and wisdom. And quality here is very, very crucial, because biased and incomplete or poor quality data leads to flawed AI decision. Just remember, few years back, if you mention to draw a scientist, you will mostly get male from the Western side, which is huge bias that is there. So these things have to be put into perspective when you are building solutions. So data are more about raw facts, information is more organized, contextual data, and in the middle between data and information there is a data understanding, which is a very, very important concept, and data transformation that also comes into the picture. Lot of work is actually done between these two things, between data, to make data a valuable information. This is mostly data engineering. This is getting the data is data engineering, and this is mostly data science, data analytics, to make sure that the data is valuable. And after this comes data analytics. Data analytics and data science also comes here into the picture, wherein you are able to convert the data, understand the data, see patterns, see the historical trend, forecast things, have an understanding, and then create variables or contextual information from this. And then comes the wisdom. Wisdom is a very good example. Like if you tell a person that you are holding a pen and you leave this particular pen, or you leave this particular pen, you just leave this pen, where will it go? Many of you will say it will go down. But if no one will think about, if I push it upwards, and then it will go up and then it will go down. So these are something that comes from wisdom, where questioning their different options that are available. Then this is what happens in the data as well, in the data science and AI ecosystem. So please keep all these things in mind. DIKW, we will be going in details about this in our previous recordings that are there as well. Like we have, what is data? If we say it consists of raw unorganized facts, figures, symbols or observations without the inheriting meaning or context. In the DIKW framework, data represents the discrete, objective facts that exist in their basic form. 95% of the world's data are unstructured. Only 5% of the data is structured. So a lot of companies who are making huge money right now are like Scalar, who is doing this work for them, annotations, getting value out of the lot of unraw data that is available. So this is some of the characteristics: is unprocessed, uninterrupted. They often have quantitative numbers but can be qualitative, as we have huge text and review data now available, recordings, transcripts and everything. Now the level of data that is coming in is much humongous because of the generative AI transcript capabilities and the raw text of information that is coming in. End of the day, these have no intrinsic value until it is processed and contextualized, or I say catalogized. Catalog is something that is very important to structure your data. More the way you structure it according to the type, date, archive, non-archive, team member name. This is very important. So every company has their own data governance and knowledge management structure, but everyone needs to follow it and have a very strict standard, because team A cannot go with their own way, team B cannot go with their own way. Everyone needs to follow a standard process so that the data is normalized and used by everyone. Exist in various forms: sensor readings, transaction records. Now the growth of IoT data and is also humongous right now. There is so much data that is getting collected, but as I told you, 95% of them are useless because they are not documented or they are not structured properly. Some real world examples are temperature readings, individual sales figure, customer names, sensor signals, and individual words that I gave you an example. One thing I wanted to tell you, a lot of companies, they don't have a proper ER diagram, enterprise relationship diagram, or what I call as the data modeling, wherein there are multiple tables that are there and they are connected. So like this is suppose the customer table, this is the sales table, this is the survey table. How are they connected? So they need to also give customer ID level, whatever level it is. So this diagram has to be created to get real value, and this is part of the data modeling that comes under the concept that is there. Then we have information. Information is more depth, right? That is there. It is the data that is being processed, organized, structured, or presented in a given context to make it relevant and useful for decision making. It answers the basic integration questions: who, what, where, when, and how many. This is very important. Integrative questions, basic ones that are there. Transformation process is the raw data becomes information through processing. So a lot of data engineering work comes into the picture here. Organization and contextualization. The transformation answers fundamental questions about the data, which is very important. If you convert your data into information, which is one of the most important and the time consuming work, you will be at level of where many companies are not there. Key characteristics are organized, structured, answers specific basic questions about data, provides context and relevance, useful for immediate decision making. So these are some of the key characteristics of this particular data that is there. Real world examples are sales report. It can be monthly revenue trends, showing which product performs better, demographic information, weather forecast. If it is a power company, then power consumption data, or any specific energy consumption data, structured text. These are something that it will be able to cover. The line is getting cut. I will be sharing the whole slide, but this is the different types of examples that information can be. So a lot of work in your company, it can be feature selection, feature extraction will come in the information part that is there. Now we will move to the third one, which is knowledge. Here you need to take one step further. Knowledge that has been processed, organized and interpreted to provide insights, understanding and ability to act. Knowledge answers the how question. This answered mostly the integrative questions like who, what, where and how many, but this is the how. This is the very important thing. How this happened, how the energy consumption in the plant became more, how this happened, how the number of injuries have increased in this particular date, how this has. So these are very, very important. The transformation from information, this is the key features: learning from experience, synthesizing patterns, forming generalization, and building the mental models that are there. So these are the four things that are very, very important characteristics that are there. You need to form generalization and build mental models of what is happening, and then you can use the data to prove your hypothesis whether it is correct or not. Some of the characteristics of a knowledge is contextual, where is relevant to a specific situation; actionable, tactic or explicit, this is something that is very, very important; predictive, which enables the forecasting that is there. The types of knowledge that is available, you have many, but I'm noting the most three important ones for you is procedural, know how, skills and technique; propositional, know that, facts and concepts; and experiential is know who, relationships and networks. So procedural, propositional and experiential, these are the type of knowledges that are there. So know-how is the skills and the techniques, facts and the concepts, and relationship and network is something when I told you when you're creating the data modeling and trying to answer these type of questions that are there. I already gave you some examples, I have noted it down here as well. Why are the sales declining? Knowing how to operate a specific machine based on the training. A doctor knowing how to diagnose a disease from a symptom and test a specific result. An expert recognizing patterns in a complex data. And a lot of people, they don't give importance to anomalies, and I tell them anomalies, if understood properly, will give you much more information than the 95% of the data that is there. And a manager knowing when to take action based on these metrics that is there. So this comes in this third level of the DIKW framework called as a knowledge. Knowledge enables us to make informed decisions and take effective action. It bridges the gap between data understanding what has happened and deciding what to do. So lot of domain knowledge that is there. Suppose you're working in a plant, you're working in an energy plant, you need to know about the domain knowledge. You need to know that information. As a data scientist who does not know a domain knowledge, he may be good in maths, but he will not understand what is happening in the plant for you to give a specific answer. So this is very important. So you need to have the skills of understanding the data. A lot of data analysis and analytics. What I will have one more video to give you guys the difference between these two words. You need to club both together, because now you have a lot of data, a lot of information. So you have an hypothesis in your mind and you can validate it with the data that is available and prove it otherwise or not. So this is the one. Now we'll move to the fourth and the most important one is the wisdom. The ability to make sound judgments and decision based on the knowledge, experience and value. Wisdom answers the why question related to the principles, ethics and long-term consequences guiding actions toward the greater good. This is something that is very, very important. Ethical and integral understanding. Lot of people don't talk about this. People are happy with the knowledge, but just a simple example. If you and this has been known on social media and all the platforms, like Amazon used to see the hiring for tech, and they used to see lot of men getting in the higher score. And when they looked into the model, they saw in historical data for software engineering and coding jobs, there were more than 80% males that were selected. So the model was inherently biased, and they were giving scores for any new profession who were male, which is not something good. All of you will agree with that. So they had to understand this. They had the wisdom. They understood how the model is working, why this is happening, and then removing those type of parameters within the model. And for even in AI and generative AI, wherever there is a little bit biasness towards anything that is happening, you need to think about how you can remove those, or you can normalize that particular thing that is there. This is something very important, because AI and technology will only do what they have the historical pattern or the data, but you need to give them some information and have that curiosity of thinking. When I gave the example of leaving the pen from my hand lot of people thought there's only one answer, that it is going to go down. But you need to also have that curiosity and wisdom to tell that, understand what all are the principles and what are the things that can happen. Curiosity and questioning. In the data science, especially when the data scientist work is there, they don't assume things very quickly. And even me, when I hear something, I have that curiosity of why this is happening. What are the other options of this is happening? Correlation and causation of everything, and then making a sound judgment that is there. So some of the characteristics are holistic perspective, forward looking, ethical foundation is very important. Suppose you are in the UAE right now. Whatever you do, you don't have to get the PII data outside the data storage, however lucrative it is, right? If Microsoft does not have a server as of now here, if you're putting things on OneDrive, you have to be careful. Similarly with other hyperscalers that are there, if you're using any customer's data, PII data, you need to tell them. If it is an AI generated content, you need to tell them. So these are some ethical foundations that are very, very important that every one of you need to know. Greater good orientation, because end of the day, we all are using AI for the betterment of the company, for ourselves. So this is something very, very important, and experiential, built on lived experiences and reflection. So one more thing that is important that we skipped here is the sustainability factor. Whatever you try to do, if possible, try to use less resources, less CPUs, less data, if possible. It is not that bigger models, more the data will give you a better output. It may be, but it requires a lot of processing power and lot of cost that inevitably comes in the environment as well as the resources. So try to also think about that. So some examples are business leaders choosing sustainable practices over short-term benefits, doctor deciding when to apply a specific treatment considering patients' long-term health, a policy maker balancing the economic growth with environmental protection, an AI system designed to make fair decisions that benefits the society as a whole. And suppose for plants, doing something that is also the UAE's 2030 vision of net zero, or now it is much more than that, to make sure the emissions are less and it is accounted for, is something that all of us should also be have in our mind. And a mentor guiding someone towards meaningful life choices based on specific values that are there. So end of the day, in the UAE specifically, we have a lot of stress on the this part of sustainability as well. So how we can use these technologies in a much proper way, not only thinking about accuracy and business value, also giving this angle. So wisdom is the rarest and the most valuable level of the DIKW hierarchy. It requires not just understanding, information and knowledge, but the judgment to apply them responsibly and ethically for the benefit of all the stakeholders, and this only comes with experience and domain knowledge. I hope you got all the 4 DIKW concepts. Whenever you see something, you have the information and you have the proper background to distinguish and how to move from one hierarchy to the another. Thank you very much for watching this video. This is a very important part of your foundational understanding.